It's between downtown and Malamar.
Oh,
On the right. I mean, if you're headed east, it's on the right.
I just
And
know
it's right next to the U-Haul, right before the Arby's
It's like
if you're headed
$27,
east.
because I had to pay
Not that I
$5
usually
right before the
do.
Arby's
shipping to
downtown.
expedite.
No, I'm
On
airport,
So, like,
yeah.
even though I
Okay, it's kind
have
of a big store.
Amazon Prime, I had to pay.
There's a big,
So
like
we
U-Haul
checked in time for the
place
concert on
in the
Monday.
front, and then the eyeglass world is on the side.
Oh, okay. I need to go get
It's
some glasses.
pretty, you wear glasses or
I wear
contacts?
contacts. But
I used to wear contacts, but
How are you feeling?
had too many problems with them.
I always fall asleep in them.
I'm walking down my road.
I wasn't that for me, it's just my penetrating blue eyes were too distracting for me to keep them covered up.
I want the ones that have like the red.
Oh yeah, these glasses make my eyes seem bloodshot, that's not anything I did on my own. They definitely have determined I don't have glaucoma.
That's nice.
No glaucoma for Dr. Duran. All right, we have a cheery bunch of a few here today. We got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, over 50%. Woo!
Woo, bonus point.
That's about a C.
Oh, we don't have to.
Okay, who would you like to be the next person through the door?
Trevor.
Jesus.
That's
Jeez.
If Jesus walks in the door, we are in a
if the
problem.
rapture's
Y'all
coming.
might be in trouble. I don't know about y'all.
Can I have your car?
The sun.
But sure, give me your
Homework still due Monday.
even in heaven gets text from I'll work in Monday.
I'm mostly Christian.
Freddie.
Oh, we're still playing that game. We've gone on to some other.
Yes,
Oh.
Frank.
Oh.
Frank was nice. Bet on who came in third.
Hey,
I can go
I
ahead
bet
and
you
do
can.
this.
KJ's my permanent bet. Okay? That's just the way it is. Well, it's like the rest of my gambling. I don't always win.
McGamble. No, McGamble would be a lot more fun if it was based on a gambling.
I have won some money gambling, I will tell you that.
Casinos.
I have lost a lot more though.
Yeah.
I don't gamble anymore for good reasons. Okay, I'm starting to think that, my homework assignment is just gonna be a painful joke to grade.
Yes.
Do
Okay,
you have any extras?
Let's do something different.
I'm
see
so,
what I mean?
I'm so sorry.
Wednesday.
Well, it's not that I don't have. I am. I don't have my bag. Grab that bag.
That's the only bag you need is downtown.
okay, the only thing I want you to turn in is number 1.
Thank you.
Do you understand that?
Sorry.
Number 1. I will play that for you and give you some observations. Now, let's see if we can recall what I said before. Perfect intervals are only acceptable on the first and last. I'm sorry. Strong beat, perfect intervals are only allowed on the first beat and the cadence. The cadence should be perfect authentic. So the last note of your example is gonna be, you got that? That's an A-F. A-F. A-E-E-F-F. A-F. Okay, here's what it sounds like. Or this. That's also acceptable. Now, we have what we call an antecedent and a consequence, or really just a double phrase. The phrases are the same. Both phrases begin that way, right?
Yes.
Now this one, there's your cadence on the first line. The cadence is the F. That is the allusion to the next phrase. Okay, then. Now, the penultimate note in the right hand is an anticipation. Don't harmonize that, please. Now, you need to go C to F in the bass. Okay? Maybe like this. The last two beats of the penultimate measure.
Sorry.
That's a good notification
Oh,
tone.
he's here.
Sometimes Google will react to something I've said, and something inappropriate will start blaring out of my pocket. It's usually some nasty comedian. I don't know why. I do have a tendency to listen to off-color comedians. They tell just terriblest jokes. I apologize for that.
Michael should too.
Okay, now, if the last two notes are CC, that's cubic centimeter. What is the first beat of the penultimate measure? And for Greg, that means next to last. First beat of the next to the last measure. What note? And Kyle, you're gonna have to tell me what note that's gonna be.
I really don't even know where we're at, so.
Number one, second line, next to last measure, first beat. Now, if the last two beats are CC, what's the first beat? Anyone?
A D? Could you do a D?
No.
Oh, just kidding, okay.
Okay, I'll tell you why, because
Okay.
it sounds like this.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing about fourths are not perfect intervals, they're dissonances. Why? In two voice, let me try that again. In two voice composition, a perfect fourth is always above the bass, right? So it's always dissonant. So you're not gonna write a fourth unless it's some kind of non-harmonic tone.
Alright, what about a B?
B flat.
A B flat, yeah.
I think that's the perfect note.
Alright.
That's what I said.
Is it?
I know, but I was talking to Emma.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I passed you on by then.
I was gonna say B
I
flat,
heard
but I
your
wasn't
D,
sure.
so you get credit for the D. B
Yeah,
flat.
D flat.
She said D.
Thanks, Tim.
You just said that was the wrong one, now you saying it's right.
No, B flat is correct. Okay, and if you listen to it, here's one thing, that if you play it and it sounds like late 18th century music, it's probably okay. If it doesn't, it's probably not. Let's hear that. Does that sound like a something? That sounds like a something.
I like it.
Okay.
That sounds like a song.
Now, generally, in 3/4 time, we have longer followed by shorter, not shorter followed by longer. Okay? All right, I guess what might be fun is to know. All right, Kyle, you ready for this?
Nope.
Tell me when.
Okay.
Now?
Yeah.
When?
Yeah.
First measure. Let's be inspired. Usually I do that in C, but today I did it in L.
Charge.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Ooh,
Yes.
altered tone. The third beat of the first measure, the second eighth note. Describe that using your theory words.
3 words.
Yes.
With a C neighbor tone. What's the
Yeah, I was gonna say Apoggiatura.
I don't think so. Appoggiaturas are generally strong beat phenomenons.
Sounds nice.
Oh,
Okay.
That's weak beat, even
Yeah.
to the beat it's weak.
okay.
It is a something though.
Mm.
What's approached by step becomes non-harmonic and resolves by lead? Yes, I should pay.
That was it.
Okay. 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 I don't know that it is though. It may be a chord tone. But why is it not a chord tone? Is the B flat the next note? The next note that's a B flat? Is that a chord tone?
Yeah.
You sure?
I mean, I would assume.
What chord tone would it be?
Flat.
Of a chord, which note of the chord is described as a B flat?
B flat.
Root, third, fifth, or seventh? Okay, I can see that this is confusing everyone but the freshmen in here. Let's continue. Okay. If the D is a chord tone, is the B flat also a chord tone across the bar? Do we not change chords across bar lines always? Yes, we do. Could that chord tone be like, that could be an appoggiatura, couldn't it? It's a strong beat phenomena. It's approached by lead, resolves by step, kind of a funky appoggiatura. More likely, it could be an accented passing tone from the C, something like that. So we don't absolutely have to determine the name of the non-harmonic tone. We just have to determine if it's non-harmonic or not. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the first note in the left hand, the first note of the piece?
Oh, wait. F.
F. Okay, I don't know how else to say first note of the piece. What is the first note of the piece in the left hand?
Oh.
F. Did I give you the wrong homework?
No.
He was looking at the A.
Well, you know, in fact, that's the correct response. First note of the piece is an A.
Yeah.
But what I'm looking for is an F. Okay. You need to know what I'm thinking, not what I'm saying, because that's just gonna confuse you no end. All right? So if you already know what you're doing, the class is gonna be okay for you. Okay? If you already understand all the concepts.
Okay, that's great.
Would you agree? If you learn this stuff in the 8th grade, it's easy for you now, right?
I was learning.
Anybody have theory in high school?
We learned solfege.
Really? You were in Montgomery, right?
Yeah.
Where did you go to high school?
Daphne.
Where's that?
We didn't.
Daphne High School? Do I know that Banderick or?
You know Jamar Dewis or Mark Foster? Mickey's now director, assistant director there as well.
She's not teaching theory.
I think Jamar is.
Ooh.
Just joking. I think Mickey is a a wonderful person, and she was a really good student. She was. She would get excited when she got something right. I just felt really good about that. Look, look.
Well, I feel.
Okay, what's first note? F.
F.
Okay, we are just flying here.
What?
How about the second note? In the bass.
What octave for the F would you
It
say?
doesn't matter yet.
Okay,
So,
we're just kind of talking through it.
yeah, it
Alright.
could, I mean, once we determine the next note.
Okay.
Here's something that I wanna leave you with here, kids and caboodles. What if you took the simplest progression possible that's not 1-5-1, and we added another chord like 1-4-5-1? Could you make that fit in the first and second measure? Could you go 1-4-5-1? And you say, what about the B flat though?
Like the B flat and the first beat of the second measure?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can make everything else work.
Why can't you make 1 on that beat work? Does the B flat not go down to an F?
Oh, it does.
It does.
You
Does
could.
that looks kind of accented passing tony?
Yeah.
It could be suspension. So, if you've only got 2 voices, you're having to infer the 4-part connotations here. Now, all folks being equal, the point is here, you can look at this a lot of different ways. But if you looked at this as a suspension and you had longer going to shorter, that would feel like a suspension, wouldn't it? It would be 4-3, all of that kind of stuff. If I did this in a 4-voice situation, and I can too. I can do this in 4 voices. Okay, I gotta change to build in some keyboard style here. Okay, if I was doing this in a 4-voice context, I'm sort of inferring that this 5-7 becomes this there, okay? So, let me just explain how I can take a super simple concept and make it totally ununderstandable. That's 2 uns in a row. Understandable. So that, what would standable mean? Understandable. Understandable.
Understandable. Jawohl.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Does that sound like music?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, now, how to make that into 2 voice? But that's not as good for me. Okay, that didn't work out for me.
Oh.
Aha. Okay, what I wanted here was some kind of, I didn't want to have these C's together. Okay,
Yeah, we can't have that.
although Bach might have. Could we have a perfect interval on the 3rd beat? Yes. Perfect intervals are allowed in weak rhythmic places. okay? They're not allowed in strong rhythmic places. Another option.
It's just like strong beats.
Okay, kids and confusions.
I am confusion.
Here is an alternate. Now, if I believe that is the underlying concept, can I do other things for the counterpoint? Yes. Did y'all do your yoga this morning? What time did y'all get up to do your sun salutation?
About
7:25.
1 o'clock.
I get just enough time to go eat breakfast.
Otherwise, you know, if I don't get up and do yoga, I will lay in bed and wonder why I'm looking at Facebook. It's like, why am I looking at Facebook? I don't even know these people. I don't care about their babies or their pets. But that dog sure is cute. Agate.
It might be hard to believe this, but now I know.
Alright, here is the newest, funnest exercise to be done. And you do it 3 ways, right?
Alright, everybody be quiet.
You're in Warrior 1.
Are you doing a sun salutation?
No, I'm just doing the Warrior 1. See, my foot back here is like Warrior 1.
Can we all
My
do
hands are in prayer. So I turn my foot that away, okay, more like Anjaneyasana kind of a way, or crescent pose. And then just lean into Warrior 3, like that. And then go back, and then do airplanes. And then lean into that. And then the full expression of the pose is arms overhead. Sometimes people do it like overhead prayer, but I do it more like goal post. Alright, so square the hips. And then you don't want to like dive into it, you just want to become Warrior 3. So, and then find your Drishti. Everybody know what their Drishti is?
Can we do sun salutations together?
Could you demonstrate the airplane part again?
No.
Can we all get up and do yoga? For the rest of
The Drishti is your focal point. So if I'm like gonna do like a tree pose, not tree pose, yes, tree pose, which is like 1 foot off the ground, I'll pick a place on the floor and just stare at that. And then the full expression of the pose can be however I choose to make that. Yep, all over, sorry. Wasn't expecting that part. Alright. This looks a little awkward, doesn't it? Okay, never mind. Alright, so, this all seems very cool, but I want to do something here, but could I do this? Could I do that? Just tell me, can I do that? And what you want to say is,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
Why?
It's a third above the C.
Stop that.
Okay.
Uh,
No one else is asking questions, they're just trying to figure it out.
no, good. When you said that's a third, I was thinking that's a problem.
I mean, if,
But you were thinking harmonically, not melodically.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you're right. I leaped and augmented fourth.
Okay.
Is that what you were gonna say?
Harmonically, it's
well,
not
yeah, but I
wrong.
mean, it's a B flat, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, dog it.
Like, what is it? Key?
We gotta start all over.
Oh, no.
So the Drishti. Now the other, I gotta do the other side. The other thing is,
Do the other side now.
to open up the hip, it's much harder to put your hands on the hip. But a lot of times I'll just hold my hands to see how long I can stand like this. How long do you think I can stand like this? Rest of the class?
24 hours.
So 9:55.
The next thing, this is the hard part.
We're gonna walk in here.
Imagine the Drishti in your in your mind's eye,
Like close them.
and then close your eyes.
Yeah.
Any one of you can balance with your eyes closed.
Huh.
I'll say yes, that's
Is that
great.
impossible?
Well, we can.
You know why I can do
Oh,
it that
wow.
long, like 3 seconds?
Why?
Do you wanna know why?
Practice.
I practice. Yeah.
Oh.
That's exactly why I can do stuff.
Oh.
Some things came naturally to me in life, but nothing that was helpful. All right, so how can I get to something besides? Here's another thing. I could still think of that as a
Could
Go
you,
to A.
yeah.
could you maybe go down to a G?
Ooh.
Here?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay, why not? I just wanna know. Oh, wait, it's a
Well-
six, never mind.
You do A.
Hey, yeah.
I don't think so.
No, it's a 5.
What we're looking for here is what we seem to be missing is we need to have progressions.
Yeah.
We can't just randomly harmonize notes because then it won't sound like late 18th century music. So
Did you?
one thing I could do, I could go to G here like that perhaps.
Okay.
But I probably would be more inclined to go to F like that. You know what I mean?
So it's not wrong to go to the E if you approach it like that?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay.
Well, I think, let's just see how it sounds. That's,
Doesn't mean it's gonna sound good.
I'm just trying to understand it.
That's not what's on.
And it is the first.
how about a sequence? Why don't we play with the hands together for a change? All right, let's hear what this sounds like. Okay, I'm not gonna play the chord. I didn't love it, honestly.
I like
To
that.
me,
That's better.
that sounds the best and the most like Bach. How do we want our counterpoint to sound?
Like Bob.
Like Bach. Like Bach. So, this is approach in contrary motion, and it is a weak beat rhythmically, so a perfect interval is allowed, and so this note, in fact, becomes an escapish tone. Yeah,
So you're saying that beat 1 and 2 are kind of strong beats, or just beat 1?
just beat one.
Okay.
Just beat one. Now, the other thing about perfect intervals, you can't have 2 in a row. Okay? So, now, even though this is a 5 chord, if I go from 5 to, what would this chord be? What I want you to say here is 4/6. Okay, so if I have this progression, what is that called?
Retrograde?
No, retrograde means backwards. Retrogression means 5 to 4.
Oh,
Okay. Retrograde is what we use usually in 12-tone music,
okay.
dodecaphonic music.
So
Uh,
it's retrogression?
retrogression.
Alright.
But is that the answer I'm looking for?
No?
No.
Oh, okay.
What does 5 going to something other than 1? What's that called?
Oh, deception.
Okay, 98% of all deceptions are 5 to 6. The other 1.8% is 4/6. 4/6. And you would still double your tonic there. But, no, don't worry about that. We can't do that in this chord, obviously, because we've only got the one note. Now, when I add this note, which could be perceived as something, here I get to 1. Even though, oh yeah, that sounds all very passing, yes. in fact, I have formed
That's cool.
a tritone which resolves inward, so the best guess scenario for this chord would be a 7, right? E.g. B flat, and or a dominant substitution, a 5/7 substitution. So even though this is passing, I think that's pretty nice. I think y'all did a really good job with that. That's exactly what.
Yeah.
I don't know about that last. Oh, I know. Let's do this. No. So I'm going to quit that and do another thing. Now, what happens on the next beat has to be different between the two lines, right? So we want to have something that seems like we're in the same piece of music, right? But we're getting all leapy here. I'm going to have to criticize Buck a little bit for having a 7th approached in the same direction, but I think we could probably think of this as another phrase here. So I won't criticize him too much. He could probably get the job here if he wanted it.
Maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. We've already got a quote the director. So what we're gonna do here is like solve it for this 2 measures and then solve it for the last 2 measures. Does that make sense? Sense? Okay. I believe that this is a cadence here, so I'm gonna think that's 5/1. Okay, we have a 2-bar kind of mini phrase, which costs you a lot if you take a note out of it. And then another 2 bars. I was making a mini fridge joke, but y'all are too poor to understand. If you take take anything out of the mini fridge, you could get some macadamia nuts for like $35 in the mini fridge. You could. But they're pretty expensive in the store too, so, you know. If this is 5/1, what's that? I don't think this is 1. Just saying.
Okay.
That's a 4 and 5.
F6.
Yeah, I would say 4.
It's probably F6 chord.
Yeah.
Okay, Trevor.
The name's Trev.
The 1/7.
Names never.
Okay. Okay, so we could harmonize the D with the B flat.
Yeah.
How about the G? Also B flat.
Yeah.
So that seems like predominant, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we want to treat these 2 chords. I believe this would go predominant, predominant, dominant, as opposed to predominant, dominant, dominant. Does that make sense? Because that's not the way 3/4 works. It could go duca dominant time, but it can't go duca dominant time, except on the last measure. Like the next time we do this, it's gonna do that exactly. All right.
And we have a
So, would this be a good note?
No.
Wait, I think one here.
Why?
Uh,
I'll tell you 3 ways it's wrong.
Perfect.
It's a perfect interval on a downbeat. It's the wrong interval, and it's a direct fit. Do you have to think about direct fits in 2-voice writing? Yeah, you do. And anytime you want to start thinking about them in 4-part, go ahead and do that too. So I'm thinking maybe a B flat
Yeah.
and even a half note.
Yeah. That's what I just-
And then what?
D.
Whoa. Maybe,
That's what I did.
maybe. Was anybody able to hear Lee Aaron Klosterman's recital last night? Was it good? What was on it besides the Hindemith and the French thing? Did Dr. Ryle sing a French thing? What else?
I know Alexis played.
Lexus clarinetti? Was it Brahms?
I don't know.
Was it Brahms?
I don't
Kind
know.
of.
Yeah.
Or it could have been Berlioz. No. Okay, let's hear how we like this. Maybe. I think the B flat is,
It sounded a little weird.
oh, okay. I think the half note just seems too long, doesn't it? What's to do? There's really no other good choices.
Yeah.
You just repeat the B flat.
Did you like the parallel octaves?
Yeah.
Because that's, if you just did that, think how easy your homework would be. Not so easy, apparently. Okay. I think the B flat is safe. The thing is, how would you even harmonize the G? What's left? B flat. So the thing is, we need a B flat here. We do. So this is crying or something. It's very sad.
Aw.
What if you do B natural?
The rest?
Sorry. What if you do B natural in the second week?
It wouldn't
Why?
sound late 18th century at that point. But you know, let's do it anyway.
Yes. Metal. This sucks.
Do you want to go C sharp too?
Nah. Actually, yes. Yeah.
It's not the worst thing I've ever heard. That was on recital class that day. I don't remember who.
Are you sure?
Something about being picked. I don't know.
What?
What next? The only thing we could do is not have a B flat on the downbeat. Okay, so what would be on the downbeat if it's not a B flat? It's not F, because F would not really essentially change the harmony over the bar line. So we're left with not a lot of options there. I don't know.
Be natural.
Let's put a rest.
Yeah.
I'm not doing any of those things. All right, so if I go to D here, I still, what is this chord here? This seems more like 5, doesn't
yeah.
it? So I'm thinking,
We're supposed to. Let's go.
Yeah.
something like that, and then we would be back with there, right?
Are you still doing one of that measure?
No, I don't
Change
think
mine.
so, but
Okay.
I think that's what it represents as 1, and we're representing that through deception.
Okay.
My first thought would have been to go to the F, but then it would really have to be, I would feel more comfortable is if I was gonna go to 1 here, is to go to 1/6.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Going through the 4/2 situation like
Yeah.
that.
But you're gonna do the,
I don't know,
Okay.
now I've changed my mind again. So I think the A is nice. Okay, here's my other choice. My bad. I don't think going to the C quite works as well from the D.
I like
Does
that.
that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't like that parallel motion there, so. The G is a loser. Okay, no one knows what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm probably gonna go with this. And look at this, ladies and gentlemen. I might even leave that note out at that point. So this is pretty darn exciting here.
G.
E flat, C, C,
Bump.
F.
Okay, G. So I'm here. Oh, I'm not there at all, am I? That was the ending, yes?
Yes.
All right? Whole thing.
Yeah.
Y'all did really well on that.
Thank you.
I think the only thing I need to adjust here is this. Now what I'd like for you to do is pick one of the others that we've worked on a little bit, work on it a little bit, and if you would like, I'll play any of them for you when you turn in the first one on Monday, just to see.
Are you just grading the first one?
Just grading the first one, you probably should do pretty well on it.
Hopefully.
Unless you
No
lose.
guarantees.
Can we try, so we can try other ones and get you to see
I'll
your
play it.
opinion?
I'll
Okay.
play and evaluate.
Okay.
Uh,
Will you not be too mean?
I'm never mean, I'm just honest, honestly mean. I'm sarcastic, I can't help that. And I realize that most of it goes over people's heads, and I was in a meeting at the highest kind of people on campus that aren't presidents, nobody got any of my jokes. Just so listening to themselves, they can't have a good time. Now, I'm faced with the fact that they're gonna serve lunch at the next meeting, and I have to be the guy that calls up and says, I'm a vegan, are you getting anything for me to eat? We'll have some chips. Nacho chips. All right, we'll just stop here pretty quick. I do have some more grades from Travis, so I'll add those in to your diminishing returns of the grade book. And I am doing the midterm grades. Use them as a wake-up call. Do you know what the midterm grades are for? And it has nothing to do with any of you here. Because all of you come to class. I know who you are. I've seen you recently. Midterm grades are F stars, which means they haven't showed up